A big part of success depends on our ability to understand and manage our emotions. They can energize and keep us focused on what we want. They can drag us down into feelings of hopelessness. They can distract us to things that don't matter or might go wrong. Emotions can also drive us to say or do things that are harmful, getting us into even deeper trouble. In Learning Power, we teach students how to observe, name, and understand their emotions by using a simple color code for the primary attitudes we all have. Green represents feelings of happiness and confidence. Blue represents sadness and disappointment. Yellow stands for feeling afraid and anxious. Finally, red represents anger and frustration. Even though we commonly regard 3 of these primary attitudes as negative, it's important to help students understand that each attitude is part of a healthy emotional life. The emotional brain represents an evolutionary advance on the brainstem which has faithfully kept animals alive for many millions of years. With the rise of emotional intelligence, managed by a set of intermediary structures called the limbic system, the brain gave its host organisms an ability to code the environment according to the threats and opportunities it presented. When encountered again later on, these embedded codes would prompt the organism to take preemptive, aggressive, or evasive action, thus giving it a survival advantage over competitors. This talent for making emotional connection and coding the environment with emotional cues is known as value setting, anchoring strong feeling to specific stimuli, situations, and circumstances. What we commonly call the meaning of life is built on the emotional foundations of value setting. When a 4th grader, for instance, who is trying to understand an elementary math operation decides in frustration that "I'm bad at math" and "I hate math," a powerful code has been anchored in place, which may take years to change. Educational neuroscience suggests that most of an individual's value setting is complete by age 10. Emotions aren't only how we feel about ourselves, other people, and the world around us. They are ultimately about behavior, as the word emotion implies. To better understand any emotion, we need to see it as a syndrome of many events going on in the brain, body, and behavior. Some parts of this syndrome are observable from outside: the content, volume, and tone of spoken words, facial expressions, body postures, tension in the muscles, gestures, and movements of the body. Other parts of the syndrome are internal and sometimes apparent only to the one who is experiencing them. Heart rate, blood pressure, breathing pattern, nausea, or a nervous gut are common symptoms of strong emotion. Less obvious but in some ways more consequential in the long term are other events affecting internal state, such as vagal tone, which is regulated by the vagus nerve running through the core of the body, as well as the release of stress hormones that mobilize glucose to the large muscles for urgent action. To say that an emotion is just a feeling, then, is a gross understatement. Each one of these many events in the syndrome of emotion represents a place where an individual might take creative control. To help us appreciate the benefits of mastering an expanded emotional vocabulary, let's take the analogy of someone who has lived his entire life on a tropical island. Having never lived in or even experienced a Midwestern winter, this islander likely has just one word for the white stuff: snow. On the other hand, a person who has lived only in the Midwest will have many words for the wintry white stuff because there are so many different conditions under which snow can be experienced. Depending on the conditions of weather, elevation, and specific location, snow can be powder, slush, dust, ice, crust, sleet, crud, or pebbled, just to name a few. In a similar way, an impoverished emotional vocabulary makes it likely that much of life's texture, complexity, and depth will go unnoticed. Research even shows that without a mental category and word to name or describe something, we might not even see it with our eyes. A well-developed emotional vocabulary is necessary for individuals to acknowledge and understand their own feelings, as well as understand the feelings of others. If we remember that higher meaning is built on emotional foundations, it should come as no surprise to learn that an underdeveloped emotional vocabulary is often beneath the meaninglessness people can sometimes feel. Learning Power provides a tool for expanding emotional vocabulary in the vocab wheel. The wheel is organized around the four basic emotions of happy, sad, afraid, and angry, then opens each of these primary attitudes into a spectrum of more subtle feelings. By working with the words in the vocab wheel, organized along a continuum or value scale of mild to intense, younger students can begin opening up their emotional intelligence. Instead of having just a handful of words to name their feelings and describe their experience, students will be able to ramp up their emotional vocabulary to 28 feeling-specific terms. Learning Power works with younger students to not only learn these feeling words, but to practice and incorporate them into their daily working vocabulary. So let's talk about some simple yet effective ways to help younger students expand their emotional vocabulary. Stories are a great medium of creative education. You can read a story with younger students and have the vocab wheel nearby for reference. When a story character speaks or behaves a certain way, or when the character is described by the author, you can pause to have the younger students consider which emotional category best names the mood, energy, or action in the story. Have them review the terms in the identified category and choose the most appropriate feeling word, reading or reciting the definition on the reverse side of the vocab wheel. Another fun activity that can be played in dyads or small groups is called vocab roulette. You can have a student roll the die onto the wheel and take the word on which the die lands. Can the student remember the definition of the feeling word? If not, then it's the next student's turn to roll the die. Whoever correctly defines the feeling word can keep rolling. Perhaps you might want to make it a competitive game by keeping track of how many correct responses each student gives. A second version of the vocab roulette game has the student roll the die to determine which emotional category will be in play. For this version, you will need the definition page for yourself. Take the four categories in the order in which they are listed on the definition page. A roll of 1 or a 6 equals green or happy. A 2 or a 5 equals blue or sad. 3 is yellow and afraid. And 4 is red or angry. You then randomly choose a feeling word from that category without saying the word and read its definition. Can the student guess which feeling word goes with the definition? If so, then he or she can roll again. You get the idea. Have fun with it.